The year is 1914. The world is on the cusp of a new era filled with promise and potential. The Industrial Revolution has brought unprecedented technological advancements, and societies are rapidly transforming. People are optimistic, believing that the future holds endless possibilities. Picture a world on the brink of an abyss. Cities are bustling with activity, and the streets are filled with the sounds of progress. Yet beneath this veneer of prosperity, there are underlying tensions that threaten to unravel the fabric of society. A world teeming with hope and progress. The advancements in science and technology have given people a sense of control over their destiny. There is a belief that humanity is on the verge of conquering all its challenges, yet beneath the surface, dark currents stirred. These currents were powerful, they were unstoppable, they would soon erupt, they would consume Europe. Political unrest and social upheaval are simmering just below the surface, waiting for a spark to ignite the flames of conflict. They would consume the world. The alliances and rivalries between nations are like a powder keg, ready to explode at any moment. The world is on the edge of a precipice, and it will soon be plunged into chaos. This was the First World War, a conflict so devastating, so world-altering, that it would forever be known as the Great War. Millions would perish, empires would crumble, the scale of the destruction was unprecedented, and the impact would be felt for generations to come. The world would never be the same. The landscapes of Europe were forever altered, and the scars of war were etched into the very fabric of society. The psychological and emotional toll on the survivors was immense, and the world was left to grapple with the aftermath. This war was a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. It shattered the illusion of progress and exposed the fragility of human civilization. The devastation was so profound that it left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of humanity. It left scars on the world, scars that remain visible even today in 2025. The memorials and cemeteries stand as solemn reminders of the lives lost and the lessons learned. The echoes of the Great War continue to resonate through history. We must understand how this happened. We must delve into the causes and consequences of the conflict to truly grasp its significance. The study of history is not just an academic exercise. It is a vital tool for preventing future tragedies. We must unravel the complex web of events. The intricate interplay of political, social, and economic factors that led to the war must be examined in detail. Only by understanding the past can we hope to navigate the future. We must learn from the mistakes of the past. The Great War serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition and the dangers of nationalism and imperialism. It is a cautionary tale that must not be forgotten. Only then can we hope to prevent such tragedies in the future. By fostering a culture of peace and understanding, we can build a world that is resilient to the forces of division and conflict. The lessons of the Great War are as relevant today as they were a century ago. The world in 1914 was a tinderbox. The political landscape was fraught with tension, and the balance of power was precarious. The stage was set for a conflict that would engulf the entire globe. Nationalism was on the rise, fanning the flames of rivalry between nations. The fervor of national pride often blinded people to the common humanity that united them. This divisive force played a crucial role in the lead-up to the war. Imperialism had created a global scramble for power and resources. The competition for colonies and influence exacerbated tensions between the great powers, creating a volatile environment ripe for conflict. A complex web of alliances entangled nations in a delicate balance, poised to topple at the slightest tremor. The intricate system of treaties and agreements meant that a conflict between two nations could quickly escalate into a global war. Then, on a sunny June day in Sarajevo, a single act of violence shattered the fragile peace. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the spark that ignited the powder keg, setting off a chain reaction that would engulf the world in war. It was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. This event, seemingly insignificant on the surface, would trigger a chain reaction, plunging the world into the abyss. This event, seemingly insignificant on the surface, would trigger a chain reaction, plunging the world into the abyss. The assassination set off a series of events that led to the mobilization of armies and the declaration of war by multiple nations. The world was now on a path to destruction, and there was no turning back. Nationalism, a potent and often dangerous force, gripped Europe in the early 20th century. This fervent ideology was not just a simple love for one's country, it was an intense, almost fanatical belief in the superiority and destiny of one's nation. It was a force that could unite people under a common identity, but it also had the power to divide and destroy. It was a fervent belief in the superiority of one's nation, often expressed through grandiose propaganda and public displays of patriotism. Nationalist leaders used these tools to rally their citizens, instilling a sense of pride and purpose. This blind faith in its destiny was both a source of strength and a potential catalyst for conflict. Leaders would often give impassioned speeches filled with patriotic slogans to inspire their people and solidify their power. This national pride was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it could inspire great achievements, fostering a sense of unity and purpose among the populace. On the other hand, it could breed intolerance and aggression towards other nations, leading to conflicts and wars. It could inspire great achievements, but it could also breed intolerance and aggression towards other nations. The fervor of nationalism often led to confrontations, as people jeered and protested against those they saw as threats to their national identity. Nationalism fueled dreams of territorial expansion. Nations looked beyond their borders with envy and ambition, eyeing their neighbors' lands as potential additions to their own. Nations looked to their neighbors, their eyes filled with envy and ambition. Military leaders and politicians alike would often be seen examining maps, plotting their next moves in the quest for greater power and territory. They saw not partners but rivals. Diplomatic meetings were often tense, filled with suspicion and mistrust. Military drills became more frequent as nations prepared for the possibility of conflict. They saw not opportunities for cooperation, but threats to their own national interests. Border fortifications were strengthened, and national leaders gave stern speeches warning of the dangers posed by their neighbors. The pursuit of national glory became paramount, overshadowing any sense of shared humanity or common ground. Military parades and propaganda films glorified the nation's strength and resolve, further entrenching the divide between us and them. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a patchwork of different ethnicities and cultures, was particularly vulnerable to the forces of nationalism. Its diverse population, while a source of rich cultural heritage, also harbored deep-seated tensions and rivalries. Within its borders, simmering tensions threatened to tear the empire apart. Protests and riots became more frequent as various ethnic groups demanded greater autonomy and recognition. Serbia, a small but ambitious nation, dreamt of uniting all South Slavs under its banner, a direct challenge to Austro-Hungarian dominance in the Balkans. Serbian nationalists plotted and schemed, their eyes set on a grand vision of a unified Slavic state. The decades leading up to the First World War witnessed a relentless scramble for empire. European powers, driven by insatiable appetites for resources, markets, and prestige, carved up vast swathes of Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. This global land grab intensified rivalries, turning the world into a giant chessboard where nations vied for dominance. Germany, a rising power under Kaiser Wilhelm II, felt increasingly hemmed in by the established colonial empires of Britain and France. Germany's desire for a place in the sun, as Wilhelm famously put it, fueled its ambitions for a larger colonial empire, bringing it into direct conflict with its European neighbors. The competition for colonies wasn't just about land and resources, it was about national pride, prestige, and a sense of security. Each new colony added to a nation's perceived greatness, while also providing strategic bases and resources that could be crucial in any future conflict. The stakes were high and the competition was fierce. As tensions soared in the years leading up to 1914, European nations sought security through a complex and ultimately disastrous system of alliances. These alliances were not just simple agreements, but were deeply rooted in the political, military, and economic interests of the time. They were designed to create a balance of power, but in reality they created a fragile and volatile situation. These alliances, meant to deter aggression, instead created a tangled web that drew nations into conflict like dominoes falling one after another. The idea was that mutual defense pacts would prevent any one nation from acting aggressively, but the opposite happened. The alliances made countries more confident in their military strategies, knowing they had the backing of their allies. Germany, fearing encirclement by its rivals, formed the Triple Alliance with Austria-Hungary and Italy, a pact designed to protect their interests and counter any potential threat from France or Russia. This alliance was not just a military agreement, but also a political statement, showcasing the unity and strength of these nations against their perceived enemies. France, still smarting from its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War and wary of German ambitions, sought security in an alliance with Russia. This Franco-Russian alliance was a direct response to the growing power of Germany and its allies, aiming to create a counterbalance in Europe. Great Britain, traditionally wary of entangling itself in continental affairs, found itself drawn into the diplomatic fray, forming an alliance with France and Russia known as the Triple Entente. This was a significant shift in British foreign policy, driven by the need to counter the growing threat posed by the Triple Alliance. This complex web of alliances, while intended to maintain peace, ironically made a wider conflict more likely. The interconnected nature of these agreements meant that a conflict involving one nation could quickly draw in others, escalating a regional dispute into a full-scale war. It created a situation where an attack on one nation could quickly escalate into a war involving all of Europe. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914 was the spark that ignited this volatile situation, leading to the outbreak of World War I. The alliances that were meant to protect and deter aggression instead became the very mechanisms that propelled Europe into one of the deadliest conflicts in history.